Welcome back guys to another video. In this one, we'll be talking about whom I believe to be the worst of the Traitor Primarchs, the Phoenician, the perfectionist, leader of the Emperor's Children Legion, Fulgrim. So let's do this. Along with the other Primarchs, Fulgrim was teleported away from Terra by the Chaos Gods, and he found himself on a poor mining world known as Chemos. Chemos was a bleak, unforgiving planet, originally a mining world for humanity, but was isolated due to the great warp storms that marked the end of the dark age of technology and the beginning of the age of strife. Fulgrim managed to modify the mining technology on the planet and rose from a simple worker to an executive, to the planetary leader of Chemos. Not long after the planet isolation came to an end with the coming of the Emperor of Mankind, Fulgrim took one look at the shining figure of the Emperor and simply kneeled before his father and swore his sword in his service. Fulgrim returned with the Emperor back to Terra to meet his third legion, only to find that his gene seed was lost from Terra, leaving his legion with mere 200 Astartes. Fulgrim addressed them in an inspiring speech that the Emperor granted his legion the name the Emperor's Children, and only they could carve the Emperor's own badge, the double-headed eagle, on their chest plate. Fulgrim was soon consumed by the idea that he and the Emperor's children needed to live up to the extraordinary honor the Emperor had shown them by becoming perfect in everything, from the military tactics to the embrace of an unusual artistic legionary culture. Fulgrim made sure his power armor was of the finest quality and decorated in the purple and golden colors he had chosen for his legion. Fulgrim first met the Iron Hand Ferrus Manus on Terra beneath Mount Narodnia, the greatest forge of the Urals, and Fulgrim claimed that he came to forge the most perfect weapon to use during the Great Crusade. Ferrus accepted the challenge, and both began working for weeks non-stop. After 3 months, Fulgrim had forged an exquisite hammer, Forge Breaker, that could level a mountain with a single blow, and Ferrus Manus a golden bladed sword, Fire Blade, that forever burned with the fire of the forge. They changed the weapons, and sealed their friendship with the craft of their hands. During the Great Crusade, and because of Fulgrim's small-sized legion, the Emperor's children were placed under the command of the Lunar Wolves Primarch Horus Lupercal, and the two grew close. After several decades, the Emperor's children grew in number, and Fulgrim was given the command of the 28th Fleet of the Great Crusade, and he set off conquering new worlds for the Imperium. One of them was a Xenos planet called Laeran, whose species were corrupted Xenos worshippers of the Chaos God of Pleasure Slaanesh. During the final slaughter of the Xenos race, Fulgrim discovered a tall silver sword with a gently curved blade and a crude gem set in the pommel. This sword was not only a potent Slaaneshi artifact, but also the physical vessel of a greater demon of Slaanesh. Once Fulgrim claimed the blade, it began whispering in his mind and corrupting his soul towards the service of Slaanesh. He began to wield the demon blade more often than the great sword Fireblade. Later in the course of the Great Crusade, the Emperor's children came together with Ferrus Manus' Iron Hands in a joint Imperial strike force against a fleet-based civilization composed of both humans and Xenos, known as the Diasporics. During a massive naval battle, Fulgrim's personal gunship, the Firebird, came under heavy attack, and Ferrus Manus' flagship, the battle barge Fist of Iron, came to the rescue of his brother. Under the influence of the demon-possessed Laer Blade, Fulgrim saw Manus' deed as undermining of him and his legion, and the selfish influence of chaos began to claim his soul. On the maiden world of Tarsus, the Assyrian Farseer Eldrad Althran attempted to warn Fulgrim that Horus had been wounded by the chaos artifact blade known as the Kemprak Anathame at the hands of Eugene Tamba, the planetary governor of Davin, and was turning to the service of chaos. Fulgrim reacted with outrage against the accusations due to his close friendship with Horus. This outrage was enhanced by the demon blade and led Fulgrim to launch a furious attack on Eldrad alongside his Emperor's children captains and his personal Phoenix Guard. In the battle, the Emperor's children slew both the Assyrian Wraith Lord Kyrian Goldhelm and a potent avatar of Cain, which forced the Farseer to withdraw, but not before killing all of Fulgrim's elite personal Phoenix Guard. Fulgrim, again under the increasing influence of the Demon Blade, ordered the destruction of several Eldari maiden walls using hideous virus bombs. Soon after, Fulgrim met with Horus. He demanded an explanation for those accusations. With the whispers of the Demon Blade, Horus convinced Fulgrim that the perfection he desired could only be achieved through chaos. Horus then gifted him with the Chaos Blade known as the Kemprak Anathame. Only the two brothers shared the secret of the Poison Blade's true power, as it was the weapon blessed by the plague god Nurgle that had almost killed Horus on Davin's plague moon. Fulgrim was ordered by Horus to meet with Ferrus Manus, the Primarch of the Iron Hands Legion and Fulgrim's greatest friend, aboard his flagship the battle barge Fist of Iron, to sway Manus to the side of Horus. Outraged, Ferrus Manus tried to destroy Fulgrim's power sword Fire Blade using his silvery hands, but the explosion knocked him out. Fulgrim intended to kill his brother with his own weapon, the Warhammer Forgebreaker, but couldn't bring himself to kill his oldest friend. Fulgrim successfully fled the Iron Hands Expeditionary Fleet into the warp to rendezvous with the rest of the 28th Expeditionary Fleet in the Estevan system. After the events of Estevan III, where Horus and the 4 legions under his command, the Sons of Horus, the World Eaters, the Death God, and the Emperor's Children, managed to get rid of the Loyalists amongst their ranks, they made for Estevan V, where Fulgrim came face to face with his oldest friend Ferrus Manus. You can find more details on the Estevan III atrocity and the drop site massacre of Estevan V if you click the link above. On Estevan V, and during the first wave, alongside his 10th Legion veteran troops, Ferrus Manus charged Fulgrim's position. Over 60,000 Astartes clashed on the dusky plains of Estevan V. This battle was soon to go down in the Imperial history as one of the most epic confrontations ever fought. Fulgrim smiled, taunting his brother even more. The Iron Hands pushed through the defenses, the bulky Terminators unstoppable in their relentless advance. Lightning crackled from the claws of their gauntlets, and their red eyes shone with anger. The Phoenix Guard braced themselves to meet the charge, fully aware of the power of such mighty suits of armor, and answered with a terrible war cry. They leapt to meet the Morlocks in a searing clash of blades. Electric fire leapt from the golden edges of the halberds and the lightning claws of the warriors, and a storm of light and sound flared from each life and death struggle. Fulgrim stood above the battle, waiting for the black armored giant who strode untouched through the carnage. Ferrus taunted Fulgrim for his betrayal of the Emperor and siding with the traitor Horus. He thought his brother mad, for the War Master was defeated. In this moment, the fire of betrayal roared from the barrels of 1,000 guns, as the final act of betrayal was unveiled, as the Iron Warriors, the Ward Bearers, the Night Lords, and the Alpha Legion showed their true loyalty. Ferrus Manus turned to face Fulgrim, his teeth bared with the volcanic fury of his homeworld. The two Primarchs leapt at one another, Ferrus wielding Fire Blade and Fulgrim holding Forgebreaker. They traded terrible blows, wounding one another deeply during their fierce struggle. As Ferrus pushed himself to his feet and staggered towards the wounded Fulgrim, he cried out as he brought the flaming blade towards his brother's neck, but Fulgrim lashed out as he drew the Demon Blade and blocked the descending weapon. With the power of chaos streaming from the blade, he pushed against the power of Ferrus Manus, lashed out, his silver blade biting deep into the breastplate of Ferrus's armor. And the Primarch of the Iron Hands cried out, falling to his knees once again. Fire Blade slid from his grasp as he gasped in fierce agony. As Fulgrim raised the silver sword to deliver the death blow, he found that he did not possess the fortitude to deliver the killing blow. In an instant, Fulgrim realized what he has become, knowing that he had made a terrible mistake in drawing the sword from the temple of the Laer, and he fought to release the damnable blade that had brought him so low. As though moving in slow motion, Fulgrim saw Ferrus Manus reaching for his fallen sword, his fingers closing around the wire wound grip, the flames leaping once more to the blade at its creator's touch. the flames leaping once more to the blade at its creator's touch. Fulgrim's blade seemed to move with a life of its own as he swung the blade. He tried desperately to pull the blow, but his muscles were no longer his own to control. The demonic blade sliced through the flesh and bone of one of the Emperor's sons. The Iron Hands Primarch fell to the ground, his head decapitated. Ferrus Manus was dead at his brother's own hand. As if awakened from a long sleep, Fulgrim was shocked by the death of Ferrus, and he was horrified by what he had done, and by the many betrayals that had led brother Astartes to slay one another. Overcome by his grief, he succumbed to a moment of weakness, and agreed to the demon's whispering suggestion that he could find release in oblivion. The greater demon was then freed from the prison of the sword, and fully possessed Fulgrim's body, claiming it for his own, trapping the real Fulgrim's consciousness away within a psychic prison formed within his own mind. Following the Estevan V massacre, Fulgrim requested a private audience with the War Master. Horus then realized that the creature before him wasn't actually Fulgrim, and it revealed itself as a servant of the Prince of Pleasure, Slaanesh. Horus gathered the 8 Traitor Primarchs aboard his ship, the Vengeful Spirit. 4 were present in person. This included Fulgrim, Bertrabo, Angron, and Logar Aurelian. The other 4, Conrad Kurz, Mortarion, Alpharius, and Magnus the Red, were holographic projections. Logar Aurelian could not take his eyes off his brother Fulgrim, slowly reaching for the Crozius mace on his back. As he drew the weapon, Logar's Crozius mace struck the supposed Fulgrim. He crashed into the back wall and crumbled to the ground. Turning his fierce eyes upon the others, he declared that this pretender was not Fulgrim. Horus then ordered the other Primarchs to leave, except for Fulgrim and Logar, as he tried to convince Logar that he was merely trying to contain the aftermath of what had happened to Fulgrim. The War Master ordered the demon Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children Legion to aid with the coming civil war within the Adeptus Mechanicus on Mars. Instead, Fulgrim ordered his legion to assault an Adeptus Mechanicus crystal mining world called Prismatica 5. During his imprisonment in the Great Portrait La Finesse aboard the Emperor's Children flagship Bride of the Emperor, Fulgrim gained a tremendous arcane abilities and managed to drive the demon out of his body. Fulgrim then sent word to the Iron Warriors Primarch Bertrabo and met with him on the world of Hydra Cordatus. They were to venture to the warp storm that had plagued Bertrabo's dreams all of his life. Within it was hidden an ancient and forbidden Xenos weapon known as the Angel Exterminatus. The destination was the lost Elder World of Idris, one of the Crown Worlds, and it was located at the heart of the Eye of Terror. On the world of Idris, Bertrabo destroyed Fulgrim's mortar shell, but was revealed with an immaterial avatar of light and energy, of soul and desire, a creature birthing itself through its own desire to exist. Fulgrim's face was a mask of agonized rapture, a pain endured for the pleasure it promised. 2 obsidian horns erupted from Fulgrim's brow, curling back over his skull, leaving his perfect face as unsullied as the most innocent child. Fulgrim ascended into chaos, a prince of the never-born, a lord of the ruinous powers, the chosen and beloved champion of Slaanesh. Over the next 7 years that followed the massacre on Estevan V, Horus's rebellion spread across the galaxy, consuming the entire Imperium in the flames of the horrific civil war known to history as the Horus Heresy. By the time the final battle of Terra began, the Emperor's children had become only shadows of their former glorious selves, wholly consumed by the desires of Slaanesh. While the other traitor legions assaulted the Imperial Palace, the Emperor's children instead launched themselves upon the innocent citizens of Terra, engaging in a mad orgy of rape, terror, and mutilation. Billions of Terrans were used as raw materials in the Emperor's children's constant desire to create ever more powerful stimulants as demonic hosts to bring Slaaneshi demonic legions to the fight from the warp, or were simply slain outright to allow a traitor marine the enjoyment brought on by the sensation of brutal murder. After the defeat of Horus aboard his battle barge the Vengeful Spirit, the Emperor's children left a trail of depopulated worlds in their wake as they fled alongside the other traitor legions into the Eye of Terror. As the supply of slaves was exhausted by their constant abuse, the remains of the 3rd Legion resorted to raiding the other traitor legions for fresh meat to feed their endless desires, and in the end were crushed by their angry brethren in a series of bloody conflicts known as the Legion Wars that tore the traitor legions apart as they lost the guiding and unifying hand of Horus. Finally, in the course of these conflicts, the Emperor's Children unity as an Astartes legion was shattered, and they devolved into a series of small competing war bands. Because of the losses they suffered during the Horus heresy and after the Legion Wars, war bands of the Emperor's Children are rare in the current 41st millennium. As for Fulgrim, he was last seen in real space fighting Vs Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines chapter. During the great duel at the Battle of Thessala in 121 M31, Fulgrim proved too crafty, slitting Guilliman's throat with a toxic blade. Guilliman was placed within a stasis field and returned to the Ultramarines' homeworld of Macragge to the Temple of Correction within the Ultramarines' Fortress Monastery until his resurrection in 999 M41, while Fulgrim retreated into the warp. At some point before the start of the 31st millennium, Fabius Bile, the Clone Lord, finally succeeded at cloning one of the Primarchs, in this case his own genetic parent Fulgrim. This version of Fulgrim, unlike all of Bile's previous attempts at recreating his sire, was an exact copy, as pure as the original before his corruption by Slaanesh. The new incarnation of Fulgrim aged to maturity rapidly, and because of his genetic memory, he also remembered all the events of the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. This version of Fulgrim expressed great regret for his actions during those conflicts and his eventual turn to chaos, and he swore that he would do all that he could to atone for his sins, his murder of Ferrus Manus and his betrayal of the Emperor's cause. Instead, before he could undertake any actions, Bile betrayed his creation into the hands of the Necron Overlord Trazyn the Infinite. The resurrected Primarch became a part of the Necron's collection of important historical figures on his tomb world of Solomons. Bile feared that this Fulgrim truly was the same man and would end up making all the same mistakes as before. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay tuned for more.